updates on any replies from the kangaroo court, guys?
I have to go and pick up my mail yet. So I got here last night, and I forgot to get. I was going to go get my mail today, and I got diverted, and but I was going to go get it tomorrow. And so I'm sure there's stuff. I know there's stuff there waiting for me, and but I think I'm hitting them hard, and we're going to talk about that tonight.
Okay, good. I'll do that reading that we'd like to do that statement, and then we'll start up.
Perfect.
This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misinterpretation, or posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance of tonight's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency of a federal, state, county, or city or township agency present? This is also for notary, poll workers, school board members, anyone who has signed an oath to the de facto government. Please raise your hand, say your name, and state your position. Okay, this meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misinterpretation, posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in tonight's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agency present? This is also for the notary, poll workers, school board members, anyone who has signed an oath to the de facto government. Please raise your hand, say your name, and state your position. Okay, and one last time. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at tonight's meeting that is a member of an agency or a law enforcement agency of a federal, state, county, city, or township agency present? And this is also for notary, poll workers, school board members, anyone who has signed an oath to the de facto government. Please raise your hand, say your name, and state your position. Okay, perfect. And we'll close with a prayer. Please, God, give us the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And Glenn, please close with your eloquent closing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Lori. I think what I'm going to do is, we've talked about this WFA TV case previously, and I think it's time to talk about it some more today. We were going over it at the Northeast Private Information Share, and there's some pretty interesting stuff in there.
Should you give us some background for the newcomers that are just joined us?
There you go. The thing to keep in mind is that the guy that did this, there's a couple memorandums that are done by this Jerry Wilkins.
Who? I'm not familiar with that name. Can you give me a background of it?
He's a lawyer. He subsequently got disbarred, but he was a lawyer at the time. I'm going to share the screen here. This is the WFAA TV case, and this was one of the filings in the case, and this is what he put down. Judicial notice of no venue or jurisdiction. And F.R. Johnson, estate, Jerry L. Wilkins, estate, and Lakeview Developers, estate. Being a Freeman character, hereby notices the District Court of Dallas County, Texas State, in case number 95-07735, that said tribunal lacks lawful venue or jurisdiction, the United States of America within the de jure Dallas County, and original jurisdiction to commence or prosecute any action against F.R. Johnny Johnson, Jerry L. Wilkins, or Lakeview Developers under the 11th Amendment in relation to the special character of the parties. And let's go and look at what the 11th Amendment says.
Special character. That sounds juicy.
Well, that's we the people, right? That's we the people. And that's why that's a state. But and this Chisholm versus Georgia case talks about that. I had that in some of my paperwork, that I am a state. It's Chisholm versus Georgia talks about that. We'll look at that. Let me pull up the Constitution first. It's important when you're looking at the Constitution to get the right one, okay? And the reason is that, you have to go to, they had a style committee. When they were writing the Constitution, they had a style committee. And a style committee is a committee to decide on which words need to be capitalized. And so everything in here, not just the text, but even the capitalization is important in the Constitution. And so you have to understand that. The protections that are found in the Constitution, you got to know about those. Let me share this, the Constitution.
Yeah, let me know if they're bastardizing the God word, okay? Because one of our experts on here who's listening right now has stated that how they're bastardizing all these oaths is by putting God in capital letters. So
that's possible.
This
is.
Well, may I
would
just ask when you're done?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if it was the Constitution of the United States or the Constitution for the United States that you were talking about.
There's a couple different versions, but we've done some research, and the only difference is in Article 3. In some versions, it says that and let's go there. This is the Constitution. I'm sharing it right now. Here's Article 3. Oh no, that's Article 1. Article 2. Article 3. And the only difference is where is it?
Prepositions and capitalization, things like that.
It has to do with capitalization, right? and it has to do with words. Article 3. We were talking about it tonight, and in some constitutions, and I'm not sure if this is the shall, but in some constitutions, where there's a shall, sometimes it has a will, and shall is mandatory, whereas will is some future event, and it's not necessarily mandatory. And then parties was, and I'm looking for parties in here, and I'm not seeing it. But when they use parties, and this was again in Article 3, it says that, it shall be a party. That's the word party was not capitalized, whereas and this is the closest one right here. Friend of mine did a bunch of research. He actually got a original certified copy of the Constitution, and he went to look at the actual, because it's handwritten. And so we went to look at the actual Constitution and see what words were capitalized and what words weren't. And he said that this is the one that's the closest that he's been able to find. And that's everything looks like it's correct. Anyways, so that's the reason I use this one. The 11th Amendment. Right here is the 11th Amendment. So, the judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state. And so, you see what he was saying? I'm as one of the people, I'm a state. We the people are the state. And this actually goes back to Chisholm versus Georgia. They said that in Chisholm versus Georgia too. Let me pull that up. Where I used it.
Can I say that I also read ambassador or ministers are different from another state? Is that what I read? I just read that, so I'm seeing that it's like a different jurisdiction there.
Sorry?
I was reading about the ambassador and ministers are separate from they're different from the state in a way from what you just showed us as a party.
Well, that was part of the Article 3, where it talks about the Supreme Court has original jurisdiction in all cases involving
disputes between the states.
Actually, yeah. Well, I'm looking for this right now. I'll go into that in a minute.
But yeah, there's definitely a difference between the church and state, right? I mean, there's a separation that's probably keeps it separate. I think, is that what he's talking about? Ambassadors, minister.
Yeah, ambassador, minister was like it's. You have to reread that and decipher it, you know.
So this is. Here we go. I'm going to share this. This is the Word file for a brief that I prepared and I filed. So it says this court is required to provide a Republican form of government And as one of we the people, the demand is a state in this union, because we the people are the state. And this is Chisholm versus Georgia, Supreme Court, 1792.
Hey, Glenn, not trying to interrupt your structure of what you're teaching, but I came on this call a couple weeks ago and I asked you about, actually, I posted something from American jurisprudence about administrating the state of the living. And
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, so what are your thoughts on that? And do you have any kind of strategy or thoughts on how to combat that? Since
Well, I think well, it's actually, that wasn't in American jurisprudence. That was in Corpus Juris Secundum. It talked about American jurisprudence, but that was actually in Corpus Juris Secundum, and that was a good find.
No, I think that I have a specific expert from or excerpt from American jurisprudence that specifically states that if you are trying to administrate the estate of somebody who's living, all your judgments are voided, right?
Well, there's certain, actually, there's, you know, they're not voided. You'd have to read through that thing, because there's, what it does is it puts into question any further proceeding. Once you show that you're not dead, then that creates a problem for them. But if you read through that thing, there's other stuff. But and it was very interesting. And actually, Queen actually sent me a Corpus Juris Secundum section. Matter of fact, I could share that if you want to see it. But that really wasn't what I was talking about right now. It's
Hey, brother, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your flow. Go ahead and continue with what you were teaching. That's a side note. We'll address it later.
Yeah. So, anyways, this is the Chisholm versus Georgia. And a state does not owe its origin to the government of the United States in the highest or any of its branches. It was in existence before it. It derives its authority from the same pure and sacred source as itself, okay? As itself. The voluntary and deliberate choice of the people, okay? So the people are the state. Think about it. So that's why that's why I said that. We the people, as one of we the people, the demand is a state in this union, because we the people are the state. And there's actually other court cases that talk about that. I was actually preparing a unlawful arrest PowerPoint presentation I was going to do here sometime soon, that goes through some of that. Because there's other court cases that talk about that too.
Yeah, I mean, we the people are the authority, and we have complete control over the entity as long as we understand who we are. So
Yeah.
we just need to hold them accountable. And when I shared corpus, I think it was no, it was AM jurisprudence, that specifically lays out that you cannot administrate the estate of the living man or woman. I think that's important for us to kind of tuck in our back pocket and research.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
you know what? They are violating everything by treating us like we are dead. It's all an illusion. It's all bullshit. We know that. But they're doing it. They're doing it every fucking day.
Yeah,
And we
Onyx.
need to step up and stop it.
Onyx, I appreciate what you're bringing to the table. But can we discuss that after Glenn's finished with his presentation? Because
Sure.
I
You
like
know,
his
yeah,
flow.
thank you, sister. I'm sorry. Sometimes I pipe up and I just need to shut up and let him finish. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Glenn.
No problem. I appreciate your comments. I think you have some valid points. But yeah, that's not the topic of what I'm talking about here.
Continue. My apologies.
Don't worry about it. I do that all the time.
Yeah, we all need somebody to keep us in check, right, from time to time.
Yeah, and you do the same for me, please.
Sure.
I was looking for that and I can't find it now. I was pretty sure it was in this PowerPoint presentation. Anyways, there's other court cases that talk about it. Let me just look one other place.
We were talking about this last night on the discussion on how in YouTube there's good focus on murder and estates. I think it's a series of some kind, but I'm going to start watching it because it does bring up a lot of this information to the forefront that gives us just different round ways of looking at things, I guess.
Well, it's all about the words. I got to tell you, they use those words against us all the time, and don't get me going.
Well, they're misinterpreted. They think that they're saying the speech out loud when they're printing everything in bold print, correct? In the shit bill that I just came back from, there's these freedom folks that I'm affiliated with, and they have a big big parcel of land just off the highway coming into Shitville, and they have these two big bulletin boards in large print. Jesus is our Lord, and then it's another one about God, and everything is in bold print, and they're freedom-loving folks, but they have no interpretation of what's legal and what's lawful. So for them, those bulletin boards are just stating their focus on the Bible in a bold way. So it's just through ignorance. It's not, anything deceitful in some forms and fashion. When we're in the kangaroo courts, we know it's all spiteful, or it's done in spiteful terms. But out in the real world, those bold interpretations are done by people that are not fully of awareness.
Yeah, they
Alex, you should have wheeled me in and told me to shut up.
Girl, keep talking. I'm not going to shut you up. You just keep speak your mind, girl.
okay. Well, let me look here. This is another thing I could try. Yeah, that's okay. I was actually looking for something else, anyways. And so she was just kind of keeping people sidetracked while I was looking for something. So I didn't mind too much.
You can mute me, Glenn. I don't mind.
Hey, Glenn,
I certainly can.
Glenn,
What?
have you seen the recording of somebody who actually was like going after the judges for their de jure oath because they didn't have it? And he was like, all right, I think the whole thing initiated from him getting pulled over for some bullshit. And I think he got pulled over. They tried to accuse him of driving without a license, and then things like escalated very fast. And now he's in the Supreme Court, and his main argument is, hey, listen, these judges never had authority in the first place because they were all de facto and they don't have any oath to the actual Constitution and they're fucking us. So Here's my petition. Reverse it, asshole. I mean, I think that was his plea, basically. I yield.
Yeah, they well, they like to. I can't find it. That's okay. I'll probably find it when I'm not looking for it. But there's other court cases that talk about it, and about we the people being the state. The government officials are our agents. Is what it is. What it says is we the people are the state, and all government officials are our agents. And so which is what this Chisholm versus Georgia case is saying too. And so that's what this WFAA TV case is saying. And so let's just continue on with that.
Well,
Glenn, if I may, I would like to ask you what it exactly was that you were looking for.
Another court case that talked about it, about we the people being the state. That's all. Just no big deal. Let's go ahead with this. This is, matter of fact, I have Nelson here with me. He's the guy that his family owns those houses in Ocean City, New Jersey, and so he's the one that got me to look at this, and so he has joined us. So he might chime in.
Hi, Nelson.
But anyways,
I have your number. I'm going to call you about my reservation.
yeah, but back to what Glenn was saying. Please introduce your speaker and let him talk. That would be awesome.
sorry.
You mentioned that you had a gentleman who is teaching you something. Is he on the call with us right now or no?
Yes, he is. Yeah, Nelson. Yeah, he's here.
I would
Anyways,
like to hear him speak.
okay.
Okay, I'm a couple feet away from Glenn. I'm not sure if my voice will
Can you
be
hear him?
picked up.
Can
Yeah,
you hear him?
clear.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, anyways, he's here. Anyways, he was the one that he had read this, and he wanted us to read it and talk about it, and so that's why I invited him to come, because he wanted to, it was his idea, and he wanted to read and talk about this because he thinks that there's some real golden nuggets that are here, and I think he's right. Jewels of knowledge.
That's awesome. Let's hear him speak. Go ahead, brother.
Well, he spoke.
Hear him
Right.
speak.
Well, basically, this particular case, Glenn had been mentioning for more than a year or two, and I thought it was patriot myth, and it didn't exist. And he finally found the written form, and as I focused on it, it appeared to me that there might be something of vital importance in the WFAA case. And so we've been through it once or twice, and each time it appears that it may have more and more importance because it was a successful common law jury finding and verdict. And when the folks that lost the case tried to, in the common law trial, tried to have a appellate court of Texas overturn the common law jury verdict, that court said that the case had been decided. The term is res judicata. And so this to me is the only common law jury case verdict in the last that I've seen of 100 it's the only one I've seen ever that was in this recent 50, 60, 70 years. So that was something that I was looking for to prove that the common law trial could in fact succeed and be effective. And this case does that. And so I asked Glenn, let's go through it line by line and see what we find. And each time we've been through it, it's become more and more apparent that the folks who brought the case knew what they were doing. One of them happened to be a bar member, and that bar member, after the fact, he was disbarred, possibly because he let the cat out of the bag.
I'm sure that's why.
On the and you'll see the key points as we go through it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, anyways, they're saying they got a immunity under the 11th Amendment, and the 11th Amendment. We talked about that, but we'll go back there. There's the 11th Amendment. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against any one of the United States. So we are a state by citizen of another state or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state. And so we are the United States. And so and then it goes on right here. There, F.R. Johnny Johnson, Jerry L. Wilkins, and Lakeview Developers, Inc., this is what I find interesting. It's a corporation. And they're claiming this corporation is a state too, which is very interesting. So says notices that the above captioned court that it is only a subdivision of the appellate district of the Supreme Court in D.C., established under Article 1, Section 9 of the 1789 Judiciary Act. And we can pull that up if you want. Should we pull up that Judiciary Act?
I don't necessarily think that's that important.
At this time, maybe not. Okay.
Because of what? The fact that it's a created court?
Yeah, right.
Right. So when I was, one of the reasons I was so interested in this case was when I was falsely accused and incarcerated, I studied the Constitution quite emphatically, and in the Article 3, I felt that the first line, could you pull that up? Article 3, Clause 1.
Sure. Yeah, we were talking about that, and you weren't here, but we were about the different constitutions, the words that you said that were
right.
Yeah, that's right here. I got it right here.
So what I discovered in my
here's the Constitution, and here's let's go back to Article 3.
What I thought I discovered is
right there's Article 3. Oh, let's share it. We got to share it.
I learned that the capitalization has meaning when they're trying to convey authority, one thing that's subject to another. And so as I was reading various versions of the Constitution, I noticed some of them had the words styled differently. One of them had the word supreme. In the one Supreme Court, the word supreme was in a capital S, and then another one had a small s. And I couldn't figure out why that was. And over time, I started to discover that I'm not sure if they did it on purpose, meaning the powers that be, or whether it was just they didn't see the need to be so precise.
I think they probably did it on purpose. They're trying to hide things.
Because if we read this first clause with the S being capitalized and then read it with it not being capitalized, it conveys a different meaning. And so at the end of the day, I discovered that the one Supreme Court is you and me. Our trial by jury is the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So let's read that first clause with that presumption. Let's assume for the moment that each of us has our own Supreme Court.
I think that we all just need to recognize that they are administrating our states as though we're dead, right? And it says in Corpus Juris
He's talking about the minor estate.
that
okay,
if there's any judgment that has been made under the presumption of death.
Okay, I muted you because we understand that that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about that now. Okay. And so I muted you because we're not talking about that now. I don't dispute that that's going on. If you bring that up, they'll ignore it and you'll lose your case. Okay. You have to argue law. And so this is about law. And that's why we're talking about this right now. And so anyways, go ahead, Nelson, with what you were saying.
So what I began to understand is I had to read the various founding documents, the organic law, in the order that they were written to understand what was going on. So I started with the Declaration of Independence. I then went to the Articles of Confederation. I then went to the Northwest Ordinance, and then, of course, the Constitution. And all of the documents, if I take them in order, and then also try to imagine as I was studying them that a certain amount of time had elapsed. There was a war going on, there was dying and fighting and a lot of stress. And so the founding fathers were the Continental Congress. When they put this Constitution together, it had been a life and death struggle. So everything they did, I felt, had meaning. And I learned that there was a style committee assigned to the Constitution, that there were men that were assigned.
They were experts in the English language,
They
right?
were experts. They were men of letters. They knew Greek. They knew Latin, Hebrew, and of course, English. And so they were trying to convey for future generations who was who and who had to honor the authority of something or someone else. So what I learned is that when there's a capital letter, that capital letter word means that it's subject to something or someone. So let's read that first line of Article 3, Section 1.
So it says the judicial power, and power is capitalized, of the United States is capitalized. And you did a bunch of research, and this has got the best capitalization, or the closest to most proper to the original Constitution, correct?
Yes, and what I learned to do was I did it for myself. I found the best proper grammar, and then if and when I ever studied anything about what was in any of those documents, I only used those ones that had passed my test of being perfect grammar, which also includes capitalization and punctuation.
Right, with the original documents.
Yes.
And so, I mean, if there's stuff like that is, I mean, the things like you were talking about that one Constitution, the only change that you saw was in Article 3 you were talking about where it said shall, it says will. Is this the shall?
Yes. So this is the actual Constitution of the United States.
Right. And so in some of the other ones it says will, and will is not mandatory. Shall is mandatory, and so that's a really big difference in my opinion. And then a party, where it said party was in the original Constitution was capitalized, but in in some of these other versions it wasn't. I'm looking for the word party in here.
It will be a party. It should be.
Shall be made.
Okay, it's in Article 3, Section 2.
3, Section 2. There's
to all controversies to which the United States shall be a party.
This is, Article 3, Section 2.
Now remember, when a word is capitalized, assuming it's not at the beginning of a sentence.
There we go. Right. To all controversies. It says to controversies. Does it say to or to all?
Oh, does it say to?
Just says to, yeah.
Okay.
To which the United States shall be a party. So in those other documents, shall was will and party was lowercase.
And the word, I discovered that there's at least two constitutions, which goes to the Downs versus Bidwell case that says there's two national governments, one independent of the Constitution and one under the Constitution. And so I needed to know which Constitution I need to claim in my basis for who I am and what authority I have as we the people.
Well, and I think just by saying that we're preamble puts us back to this one and takes us away from the other one. You see what I'm saying?
It does, but the problem is that the second Constitution is called the Constitution of the United States of America. And it sounds good, but that actually is a trick that they're using against us, because the United States of America, after 1868 or so, is related to...
It's a corporation set up for D.C.
Corporation set up in D.C., yes. So what you and I think is the United... When I grew up, I was in Philadelphia, and there were a lot of Jewish people who were my teachers. And I kept saying, the United States of America. And they would scream at me, no, it's the United States of America. Why is that important? Because if we go back to the Confederation...
Right. Yeah, right on. So the Jews were helping
the
you.
Style of this Confederacy.
That's right.
Go back, and I'll show you when everything's in small letters, it indicates common law. So if we're talking about a common law jury...
Right. Do you want me to pull up the Articles of Confederation?
Please. And we're going to look at Article 1 of the Articles of Confederation. This is in 1777. Article 1. What is the definition of the word style? S-T-I-L-E.
See, you don't. It's S-T-Y nowadays,
right?
And so, I'm not sure if S-T-I-L-E had a different meaning.
No, it has the same meaning as it does today.
Yeah.
The word style. You've heard of the word turnstile? The style means like a set of steps taking you over a fence into another field. So the style of this Confederacy, and see the words this Confederacy are lowercase. So this Confederacy is a common law confederacy.
Right.
And then it says, quote, the style of this confederacy shall be, quote, the United States of America,
yeah,
unquote.
And your Jewish teachers were trying to pound that in your head when you were a kid.
I'm still hurting. But they understood the life and death meaning.
Yeah, no shit.
Of why I needed to understand this.
Why that was important.
So
that just goes to show that not all Jews are bad.
Correct. So the United States of America, and see, if it was just United States of America, they would have put that in quotes and had the being a small THE in front of the quote. But that's not what it says.
Right. And it's got quotation marks. So
yes.
That's like stressing it.
Yes. Okay, so all this relates to us wanting to have common law power and authority and results. So the style of this confederacy. So now let's go to Article 6, Clause 1.
And now this is the Constitution.
Yes. And to me, I say that this is the most important clause in the Constitution for me. Article 6, Clause 1. And this was revealed to me by a friend who recently passed away. His name was Charlie. He was out of Colorado. And while I was in jail, he would coach me, Glenn would coach me, and we would try to figure out how are they doing what they're doing to us, and what are the hooks they're using. And so these are some of the secrets. So Article 6, Clause 1 is, let's read that.
It says all debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And that's important. That's really important.
So the word against, why would I need to be against the United States?
Well, you have a right that they have to provide.
Right. So we created the United States.
That's right.
And therefore, we created them for a certain role, and they had certain obligations. So I grew up thinking, oh yeah, all debts, and that always made sense to me that the French were owed money, and so we had to honor that. But I never understood that the word engagements was there. So what were the engagements entered into before the adoption?
That goes to the Northwest Ordinance.
Right. Go to, if you will, the organic law, and you'll find it under...
well, I have that file on my hard drive.
Yeah, but I want them to see it in real time.
On the website?
If you go and it's in the Congress's website, it'll say organic law. And this is still valid today. And it'll be like a brownish, it's like a congressional.
You want me to go to the U.S. Congress website?
Yes. I think so.
Well, that's not taking me there. So I thought it would be on the Department of Justice website.
No, because I'm interested in...
There's the Congress website.
Okay.
I think it's the U.S. Department of Justice.
I don't think so. Not the one I'm looking for. Because it has to do with the law, organic law. Who made law? Justice Department or Congress?
Yeah, but look.
And what this is going to show us is the organic law are the 4 founding documents. And that's what Article 6, Clause 1 is discussing.
Well, we'll share the screen if it's here somewhere. Okay, so this is the U.S. Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives website, but I'm not seeing where it talks about organic law. Committees, leadership, representatives.
Actually, put in organic law front matter and see if I think it might take you right there then. Front matter.
There we go. Oh, that's U.S. Code, house.gov.
Okay, go to that. Okay, now, see this right here? Where it has a pull down?
This is the Office of Law Revision Counsel.
Okay.
Organic law?
Yep, hit organic law, and then it'll say front matter. Right here, I think. I can't see it.
Organic laws. Okay, there we go. Okay, and it has the Declaration of Independence, the Articles of Confederation, the Ordinance of 1787, and the Constitution.
So before we get into any titles...
Right. The organic law comes first.
Correct. Organic law. And that's, of course, if we read in 1871, they called it the Organic Law of 1871.
Right.
That was to trick us, to put in the Constitution of the United States of America.
Right.
Which is for the Maritime Corporation.
But the Articles of Confederation, now I'm not sure if the style is going to be the same, but not the Articles of Confederation, the Northwest Ordinance.
Yeah, if you go to Section 14, Articles 1, 2, and 3, it will blow our minds. This was only 2.5 months before the Constitution.
Right, yeah. Yeah, here's Section 14 right here. But I'm not sure if they can see it.
So those
Let's
words, I found that when I was reading these,
let's share it.
most everything is in lowercase, which means it's common law, and it's like a common league of friendship that we had agreed to.
Section 14.
In the Articles of Confederation. So
yeah.
Yes.
It is hereby ordained and declared by the authority aforesaid that the following articles shall be considered as articles of compact between the original states and the people. So we're talking, that's the original 13 states and the people.
And
the states in the said territory. Okay, now they're talking about the Northwest Ordinance territory. Because a lot of people say the Northwest Ordinance, or they think that the Northwest Ordinance only applied in that territory that was granted by the Definitive Treaty of Peace of 1783, and that's not true. What this is saying right here is that it applied everywhere.
Correct. And the territory, we like the word territory, it depends whether it's capitalized or not.
Right. In this case, it's not capitalized.
Okay,
that means common law territory.
Exactly. That's the land under our feet.
That's right.
Whereas the territory...
Capitalized would be a territory of the United States, like Puerto Rico.
Or the powers over territory, which is in the Constitution, and it is capitalized in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to point out, I mean, this is it's all related to why this Johnny Johnson WFAA case can blow the lid off of
anything else.
The tyranny.
Yeah.
Because if we expect a common law jury to be legit and to have teeth, it did happen in 1995 or 96 with this case.
Right.
It's proof. So now as we go through the case, let's go back one more time to Article 3, Clause 1, because as I was studying the Constitution, Article 3, Clause 1 states...
That's Article 6 there.
We will go back to that too, but Article 3, Clause 1 states the judicial power of the United States
shall be vested in one Supreme Court.
Okay, now, look at the word judicial there.
It's lowercase.
Okay, now go to Amendment 11. And
I think it's capitalized there, isn't it?
It is, and the word power in the 11th Amendment is capitalized. Excuse me, it's lowercase, whereas and I don't know fully yet why and what the difference is, but what I learned is when...
There's a reason for everything, I'm telling you.
There's a reason why they did what they did.
There's always, judicial is capitalized there, and power is not.
Right. So now let's go to Article 6, Clause 3. We want to talk about the oath. Everybody wants to talk about the oath. Well, the oath of who? And notice that the word judicial and executive is lowercase. So that's talking about the man or woman in that office, the judicial officer. So the judicial there is the magistrate who's speaking or breathing. He's the common law man who holds an office. Same with the executive officer. So now Article 6, Clause 1, let's finish up with that. Repeat
right there.
That.
All debts contracted or engagements entered into in the Articles of Confederation was done less than 3 months prior to the Constitution.
No, that's the Northwest Ordinance.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The Northwest Ordinance was done less than 3 months prior to the Constitution. So they knew about the Constitution when they were writing that Northwest Ordinance. When Congress was passing that, they knew the Constitution was in work.
Right, and what they wanted to do was to ensure common law rights would be available to all at all times in the territory, small t. So in the Section 14, Section 14, Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the Northwest Ordinance, it outlines, it almost reads like the Bill of Rights. So remember, this is now 2.5 months before the Constitution is the
Northwest Ordinance.
Northwest Ordinance. Let's look at Section 14, Articles 1, 2, and 3. And as we read it...
So there's Section 14. It's hereby declared, ordained and declared by authority aforesaid that the following articles shall be considered as articles of compact, agreement, contract.
Lowercase.
A lowercase, that's right.
So that's a
between the original states and the people and the states in the said territory.
Is there any commas there? Are there
No.
Any, why is there no commas?
Between as articles of compact, comma, between the original states and the people and the states in said territory,
right.
Comma.
So to me, the word between normally to me would be two different things. But you know what? There's more than two things referred to there.
Right.
So it's all one.
All of them.
Exactly. Between. So that's between all of them.
Right.
If there's three men, they all have, it's between them.
Right. Joe Blow, John Smith, Mary Jane. Or
all
something.
three of them.
That's right.
Okay. So now, mainly it's Article 1 and the first part of Article 2, where they were trying to make sure that if they gave congressional power to the pre-states of the Northwest Territory, they wanted to make sure if I was a citizen of Pennsylvania and traveled west to the Ohio Territory, that those maniacs in Congress weren't going to have the ability to treat me the way the King of England had treated the colonists.
No shit.
Okay. So Article
2.
Article 2. Well, did you do 1?
Well, Article 1, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's important. I mean, this is Article 1. This is where they were in their minds, what they had to ensure.
No person demeaning himself in a peaceable and orderly manner shall ever be molested on account of his mode of worship or religious sentiments in the said territories.
Right. Okay, now, Article 2.
The inhabitants of said territory shall always be entitled to the benefits of trial by jury, writs of habeas corpus, trial by jury, proportionate representation in the legislature, judicial proceedings according to the course of the common law. That's like really powerful.
Exactly.
So if it's not according to think about it, if it's not according to the course of then it's not a judicial proceeding. It's a bill of attainder by definition.
Right. So again, now we're going to fast forward to 1996, and a situation happened in a post-Civil War, post-communist infiltrating America place in Texas, where a man was violated who happened to be an attorney.
Right.
So he pulled out all the stops and says, okay, I'm going to show you what the truth is. And to me, this is the only case I've ever read about that matters to me as far as post-1900, because it actually was a trial by jury that had teeth to its ruling. And that's what I'm after. If we're going to hold our own courts, what is our own court?
You want to make sure it's got some teeth.
So go back to Article 3 of the Constitution, Clause 1. And now other people have confirmed, including the Johnny Johnson case, but I didn't know any of this when I'm sitting in the jail cell trying to figure out where my power lies as a man.
There's Article 3.
And understanding that common law is important. But the state of New Jersey in 1978 legislature, the state of New Jersey Corporation, passed a statute that said that common law crimes in the state of New Jersey are hereby abolished. That's why I couldn't get a fair trial because common law had been abolished.
So that means there's no judicial trials in New Jersey. It's all bills of attainder. And that's why you have to do a collateral attack, I'm telling you. And they're going to have a problem. It's going to cause everything to change.
So Article 3 of the Constitution says the judicial power of the United States. Now, who is the judicial breathing body referring to there? The judicial power of the United States.
One Supreme Court.
Okay, so does that mean that the one Supreme Court has the entire judicial power of the United States behind it? I believe it does. But what is the one Supreme Court?
Well, and so that's a lot of people think that it's the Supreme Court of the United States, but that's not true. And that's where Johnny Johnson explains it in his memorandum here.
Correct. All right, so I think we're ready to go to, well, we need to finish Article 6, Clause 1. Before we go to Johnny Johnson, because the Constitution shall be the...
Okay, so Article 6, Clause 1?
Article 6, Clause 2 states that this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land. So, what does Article 6, Clause 1 say? We got to the against the United States shall be as valid against the United States. So there's the judicial power of the United States that's in one Supreme Court, which is me and my right to common law trial by jury. Because again, the word court is capitalized. So what is the court under?
See, and when I think about against the United States, they're talking about the federal government.
Exactly.
They're not talking about we, the people of they're talking about the federal government there.
Correct. Shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. So the Confederation was in 1777, but the Confederation is different than this Confederacy. Remember, we saw this Confederacy?
Right. The Confederacy was
common law.
That's right. But the Confederation is the government, the federal government.
And that is why it's capitalized in Article 6,
right.
Clause 1.
Right. See, this is the kind of stuff you miss when you don't come to the Northeast Private Information Share, is these kinds of discussions.
Well, they're getting the benefit anyway.
You're getting it anyways. That's true. And we try and publish the videos. And so, but you got to watch the videos. It doesn't do any good to have the video up there if nobody's watching it. Anyways, so let's keep going here. So let's go in and look at what Johnny Johnson had to say, or Jerry Wilkins, actually.
Jerry Wilkins is the star for me.
Yeah.
He was an attorney in Texas, and his office was broken into, and a television station...
It was a television station that did it. That's why they went and sued that television station.
Well, I don't know that the television station broke in. I think that the camera was there.
It was the television station that watched it happen and recorded it.
That's what happened. Yes.
Yeah.
So whoever broke in, I don't even know.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. But they were recording it, and then they broadcast his documents on air.
Yeah.
After breaking in, someone broke into his office.
That's right.
So he demanded a common law trial by jury for he and his partner, Johnny Johnson.
I'll bet you they'll think twice about doing that next time.
Right. So they were successful. And it was a very short time, less than 3 months from beginning to end of the trial, the appeal to a court to say it didn't exist, that the judgment needed to be vacated. And the judgment said that the appeals court said, sorry, this common law jury decision
Stands.
is law.
That's right.
So
this is what they said, though. This is the judicial notice of no venue or jurisdiction. And so F.R. Johnny Johnson, Jerry L. Wilkins, and Lakeview Developers notices the above catch in court that it is only a subdivision of the appellate jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in D.C., established under Section 1 and Section 9 of the 1789 Judiciary Act as inferior courts established by Act of Congress. So they're inferior. Most people think that, and I've always thought that the only really Supreme or Article 3 court was the Supreme Court, but actually it's our court is the only Article 3 court. That's all inferior court that's established by Congress.
correct.
So
let's go back to Article 3 again, because I'm going to show you where I figured this out. And again, other people have. It's just that this is proof that what I thought might be the case is actually the case.
Okay, that's Article 6.
I want Article 3, Clause 1.
Right there.
Go ahead and read it.
The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and it's lowercase.
And then there's a comma.
And in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish.
So what I always read, I used to read it as in the words "and such." What does it say? As such or and such?
And in such.
And in such. And that made me think, okay, the one Supreme Court is above the Supreme Court that we know of the United States is above the inferior courts. They all say, oh, those are inferior courts, which is true. But the Supreme Court of the United States is this inferior court.
It's still inferior. That's right, compared to our one Supreme Court.
Which, of course, goes to Amendment 7.
Seventh Amendment. Okay, let's go there.
Also, when I was reading the Bill of Rights, I noticed almost every word in the Bill of Rights that matters is lowercase.
Here's the Seventh Amendment.
My common law rights.
In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved. And no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. And that is like really powerful. It's like when a common law jury finds facts, that's why we do finding of facts, affidavit of facts, because, I mean, they can still review it, but they got to do it according to common law. And if they do it according to common law, they're fucked.
Exactly. And this, of course, is why I think, I mean, it can be abused. The trial by jury can be abused, like the white guys in the South
right
used to abuse their common law
powers.
And they basically would railroad black men and hang them or let their friends off for committing a crime. So the honorable aspect, Glenn had.
Yeah, we all have to be. Remember what Franklin said. Was it Franklin or Jefferson? Franklin, this Constitution is only suitable for a moral and righteous people, and it's wholly inadequate for any other. And that is so true. And we have to do unto others as we want others to do unto us. And that's the number one rule in the Bible.
So when we call someone to our bar of the common law trial by jury, we're both saying that we are correct. And there's no bar members to negotiate the lie. So the common law jury determines the law and the fact between the two men that apparently couldn't come to terms on what was right.
Well, and that's in the Bible. It says that if you have a problem, You go to whoever and you work it out with them.
Right.
And you shouldn't be taking it into court.
But if we do have to, then the jury of our peers
right.
is fair.
Right.
Which goes back to the Magna Carta.
Right. Absolutely. And, well, it's way before the Magna Carta. It actually goes back to the Bible. I mean, if you go back to the Magna Carta, you read the writings of Coke in the 1500s. He says that the Magna Carta is only an affirmation of the common law, and it comes from way before that. And if you read Blackstone, he says that it's found in the Bible.
So a guy had a problem in 1996 or 95, and he called for a common law trial by jury, and he properly served, hand delivery of the people he wanted to cross-examine and bring evidence or give evidence. And the guys that had harmed Jerry Wilkins and Johnny Johnson didn't show up for court.
And they admitted it too.
Right. And that's why I think that the appellate court...
That was another reason why the appellate court couldn't do anything but rule in their favor.
Yeah, because Jerry Wilkins closed the door and slammed it shut and put a padlock on it.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's see what he did in his case. So Article 3 talks about, and in such inferior courts. I always thought that it took me a long time to study the in such to what that meant. I always thought it meant in such as the Supreme Court of the United States, but that's not what it meant.
Well, it's the Supreme Court. There's a Supreme Court of the District of Columbia, and that's set up in the D.C. Code, the Code of Law for the District of Columbia in 1901. And I think that what they were doing is they were basically, because if you read that, I mean, the chief judge, I mean, everything that you see going on nowadays is District of Columbia. You know, they get a commission when they sell you into do an order of commitment, right? Mm-hmm. Constables are in there. I mean, all of the stuff that you see the military police doing is all in the District of Columbia.
Right. And so I was precluded. I demanded trial by jury in my case, and I was denied. I was accused of a felony falsely. And I just kept demanding trial by jury, and I didn't know it at the time, but the state of New Jersey is incapable of providing me with a trial by jury.
Yeah, no, they can't. No, we've actually had judges. Randy Kelton's son-in-law actually told us, I can't give you, the statutes don't allow me to give you a trial by jury. All I can give you is a jury trial. And we should have took that and said, well, you know, you're owed to the supreme law of the land, but we didn't. What I told Darren to do, I was with Darren when he told us that, and I told him, well, just put without prejudice on the plea bargain, and which he did, and then we thought about it after, and we thought we shouldn't have done that. We should have, you know, reminded him about the supreme law of the land, and he would have had to dismiss it, but you know,
right, hindsight.
But the jury was sitting outside. Okay, it always, Charlie said that would happen. The jury was sitting outside. They were ready to move ahead with the trial. And we went back into the back room, chambers. That's chambers when it's in a back room somewhere. Anywhere the judge is sitting is chambers. And so we went back, and the prosecutor was there, and I was there, and Darren was there. So anyways.
So how do we affect a common law trial by jury? And remember, if we go to Amendment 7, it says that in suits at common law where the value in controversy is greater than $20. So there had to be, this is where the damage to person or property comes in.
Right.
There's some kind of a value that's in controversy. Because in the old days, it's like in the West. If the cattleman came in and shot up the saloon, as long as the trail boss paid the saloon owner,
Everybody was happy.
There was nothing. Yeah, there wasn't anything that
Could happen.
that could happen to the men because the value was settled. They paid for the damage, and that was it. So, in a suit at common law, I'm claiming some sort of damage greater than $20, and that's what it was with Johnny Johnston and Jerry Wilkins. They were claiming
A bill.
for more damages for more than $20. If you notice, the words $20 is in lowercase, which goes to common law money, which is gold and silver coin, in my view.
Probably right. Dollars, actually, from what I've been hearing, dollars actually goes back to Holland. And it was the money that they had in Holland back before England.
Right.
And it was called dollars.
So it was THALER.
Yeah. Dollars.
Right.
TH. Yeah.
Correct. So I think that we've laid the foundation pretty well, and that the one Supreme Court
Is not, as a matter of fact, he goes through and explains that. So maybe we should let him explain it.
Yes. So now let's go through his summation there in his brief.
And then he's got a good memorandum of law in there too. And so we'll see if people want to go through that. We can go through that as well, or maybe we can go through it another night,
No, go through it. Go through it. Go through it. Go through it.
Go through it.
Okay.
It's not that long.
No, it's not.
All this took a lot of foundation so that we understand if we're going to eventually succeed as we the people, we have to see the blueprint and the founding, the organic law of why we're entitled to these remedies and how we should be conducting ourselves and how that the fake government has blocked us. So we're basically breaking through.
Yeah, but again, there's been a lot of good court cases, like the Ex parte Milligan case, where the Supreme Court said that the martial law courts can only be in existence as long as the civil courts are not. And so when we have our one Supreme Court, that's our civil court. That's us. That's we the people. And they have to step aside.
So I have a question I still don't know the answer to. Is there ever a time that our civil courts are not available under the common law?
Not really.
Right.
They're always there, but it's whether we choose to avail ourselves. And whether a lot of it is out of ignorance. You know what I mean? Because, what did Isaiah say? Was it Isaiah? That my people perish for lack of knowledge. And that is so true.
So Jerry Wilkins, the attorney who won, who's the good guy, refers to much of what we've just gone over. So that was why I felt it important with Glenn to...
Yeah, so we're laying a foundation for what we're going to talk about with Jerry Wilkins now. So, Jerry Wilkins and Lakeview Developers, Fr. Johnny Johnson. The above notices the above captioned court that it is only a subdivision of the appellate district of the Supreme Court in the District of Columbia, established under Section 1 and Section 9 of the 1789 Judiciary Act, as inferior courts established by Act of Congress. They are established by Act of Congress, so then by definition they're inferior. Because it says in the Constitution, such inferior courts that are established by Congress are to our one Supreme Court with original jurisdiction, which was established exclusively by the people and for the people in 1787 under Article 3, our national constitution. It is self-executing and needs no legislative implementation to regulate its processes or confer jurisdiction. They can't tell us shit. It's up to us. And that's what we, the people, are the law. We, the people, make the law. And I have a whole PowerPoint presentation. I go through that stuff. And so that's what you have to understand is we, the people, are the law. We, the people, make the law. See 10th Circuit Court order and judgment presented in this action and judgment by the people filed herein under the 7th Amendment by a full bench of peers. State of Texas is only an organized entity, subdivision of the District of Columbia, in other words, United States, and it is not the United States of America or any part of a de jure government. See further 28 U.S.C. 1251 and Supreme Court Rule 17.1. These two rules alone confer federal jurisdiction only by appeal or removal at choice of the sovereign, by statute to a U.S. district court, by federal question or constitutional grounds. Command is placed upon the above captioned court to place into evidence all evidence of its lawful venue, original jurisdiction to commence, prosecute, and hear any action against F.R. Johnny Johnson, Jerry L. Wilkins, or Lakeview Developers, Inc., or any delegation of authority to review any judgment issued by the people under the 7th Amendment. Right? Then according to the rules of common law, I'm telling you, this stuff is so powerful, and they had no choice but to walk away from that one. They were screwed. All evidence supporting any extradition papers or contracts into the U.S. or Texas state in relation to birth rates, okay? In other words, where's your evidence that you extradited us into the United States, into the District of Columbia, that would allow the officers of this court to exercise its loyalty oath instead of its constitutional oath or its authority from the people in and for Texas state to bring any action in the statutory courts, which is contrary to the Constitution and Bill of Rights, will be a trespass upon case, and that's the common law court case, FRJJ 95-005, FRJJ 95-006, filed in and with our one Supreme Court, common law venue, original and exclusive jurisdiction, sitting with the power of a circuit and United States District Court in and for Texas State, United States of America, as the circuit court does sit in original cognizance and concurrent with the courts of the several states. In civil nature, at common law or in equity, and shall have exclusive cognizance of all crimes and offenses under the law of the United States, and guarantees, notice that's lowercase, okay? So that means that's the common law. That's the United States. That's we the people. And guarantees to every state a Republican form of government by oath. This action is in contempt to bring such fictitious action in plaintiff's name in relation to the special character of the parties. Further, the actions of F.R. Johnny Johnson, Jerry L. Wilkins, and Lakeview Developers are not in violation of Texas statutory codes, as the state of Texas clearly did adopt the Uniform Commercial Code as UCC 1 and UCC 3, and signatures by accommodation and use of the procedure of FS4, True Bill Non-Judicial Private Security Agreement, involving non-standard, non-negotiable filings, and proof of service are proper. All filings have been made. See, this is what the beauty of a common law court is you can use their commercial codes. Because we can do anything we want. It's our court. All filings have been made open to the public for protest, and judgments were made pursuant to the code UCC 9-501 default any available judicial process. UCC 1-105 provides that the parties have the power to choose the applicable law within their twice. The proper territorial application in this case We, F.R. Johnny Johnson, Jerry L. Wilkins, and Lakeview Developers, Inc., have chosen the common law in the courts of the several states and not the laws of the compact party statutory state known as the state of Texas. Notice of refusal for cause without dishonor is hereby given to the inferior court known as the District Court of Dallas County, and all warrants, charges, pleadings, and related documents because of constitutional violations, modifications, and restrictions upon our certain rights and remedies. So, and that's Jerry Wilkins did that. Okay, so that is that's a 2-page, nice and short. Although there's a lot of stuff in there, I'll tell you, man, there's a huge amount of stuff. Judicial notice of no venue or jurisdiction. You're given notice. You don't have any jurisdiction or venue. And then he's got this brief in support of defendant's answer and motion to dismiss. And this is actually pretty good. It says the Magna Carta in the year 1215 in England started the basis for common law. Actually, that's not true. But anyways, the law was brought to America when English sovereigns came to American shores. Common law was the supreme law of the land in America, and thereby our one supreme court of the people, by the people, and for the people. Then came the Constitution of the United States, dated September 17, 1787, which is still in effect and has never been declared void, and is the oldest written constitution still in effect today, wherein in Article 1, Section 1 states all legislative powers. Actually, that should be, all legislative, right. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. In Section 8, it states that Congress shall have power to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. The Constitution had not, prior to the statement in the Constitution being written, since this was Article 1, provided...
Excuse me, could we go back and look at that?
Sure, yeah, Article 1, that's interesting, isn't it?
8
See, that's one thing we didn't talk about.
And also, how is that word supreme?
Okay, well, let me share that first.
Right. And I don't know the answer for sure yet.
Well, I know in Canada they've invented, or they've used that clause, I believe, to create these tribunal courts, which is nothing but magistrates, again, acting as judges to shut down cases before they're even heard in court.
They're bills of attainder. I'm going to prepare a document for my brother. He's got a battle going on in Canada, and they're bills of attainder. But anyways, so Article 1, Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. And then in Section 8, Section 2, let's go. Okay. Section 8. 3, 6, 7. Here we go. Section 8, Clause 9, to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court.
I can't see that. The Supreme is uppercase?
It's lowercase.
Okay. That's powerful. Because it's referring.
The Supreme Court is we the people.
Correct.
And anything that Congress constitutes is inferior to we the people.
Exactly. And I don't remember anybody ever sharing that with me ever.
That's the first thing I even noticed of that. And that's before Article 3 that establishes the judicial power.
Correct. But they're planning on, and so they're acknowledging in this legislative power that it's under the one Supreme Court. And the the constitutions that they put out there to confuse will capitalize that.
Right.
And that's why it's important to make sure whenever we refer to a document that it's the correct one. And we ordered a group of certified copies from the archives of all of these documents, you and I.
Right.
So we have them, and they can be shared with you so you can know what is the actual truth. So there it is.
Yep.
Johnny Johnson is referring to that. The one Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And the inferior courts, which is any court that Congress creates, including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Right. Which it is an inferior court. Because it's really a Supreme Court of the District of Columbia.
But at the time, it wasn't called the District of Columbia. Initially, it was over such district. They didn't know what it was, and it was originally called the Territory of Columbia. And
that's true. And that was when the Constitution was written.
Right. So as I stated before, in order to comprehend better, what I learned to do was to understand the chronology of what I'm reading and when it was written in relation to all the other decades that went on.
Timing is everything. Yeah. I hated history in high school, and now that's all I deal with. The Constitution had not, prior to the statement in the Constitution being written to this, was Article 1, provided for a legislative Supreme Court, Article 1. Section 8, it states that Congress shall have power to constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. The Constitution had not, prior to the statement in the Constitution being written, since this was Article 1, provided for a legislative Supreme Court. They were and could not, without any doubt, be referring to our Supreme Court in and of the common law, which already established and active in America and the United States of America. It is clear that the Constitution was now setting up another set of courts called legislative courts, and they refer to them as inferior courts, meaning inferior to the already existing common law courts, our one Supreme Court.
Right. And
I ought to just rewrite this one and put this thing into my case.
I agree. Now, also, one thing I notice is important for me to understand is that in the original colonies, which became states, the reason we didn't need the congressional legislative courts was because we had common law courts available in the states. So we've lost our way.
Yeah. Well, what happened, I can tell you what happened. They went and baited us. Okay, think about it. For a long time, the courts were making a lot of good rulings. You'd always hear about these good rulings and stuff like that. So people had faith in the courts.
Because of Article 6, Clause 2, the judges in every state shall be bound thereby to this Constitution.
Right.
And then something about notwithstanding the Constitution or laws of any other state. Article 6, Clause 2.
We can go back there if you want.
So we the people were getting perfectly good law adjudicated because the judges actually were bound by this Constitution. Whereas today, I have a case where a municipal judge in 1995...
They just ignore it.
He was teaching a class for other municipal judges, and he said, ignore the Constitution.
Yeah.
which under their rules they can. But if we don't know that,
well, if we don't bring up the issue, I mean, that's like major problem. That's like perjury of oath. That's all sorts of stuff. And so don't give me that crap. I mean, that's
well, they can't bring us in there though. That's the thing. If we go into a municipal court, we're basically subjecting ourselves to that.
Yeah.
And so they'll actually, they cannot bring a man by force into a municipal court is my current assumption. And
that's why they sent you those invitations, right? They invited you. Right. Remember?
Yes.
This Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made, which shall be made under authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the constitutional laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding.
Right. So judges in the states had a respect and honor to this Constitution in their decision making and overseeing the cases that were brought before them. So does anyone have any comments or questions at this point?
Yeah, I'll unmute everyone so that they can.
I think now's a good time to. Now could be a good time to just let them air any of their questions and concerns before we move on to the rest of the case.
Okay, Smoking Baby, go ahead.
You were held in in the state of New Jersey?
I was what?
In the state of New Jersey? You mentioned your case?
Yes, I am a free citizen domiciled on New Jersey at the moment. And the state of New Jersey, go ahead.
They said something about you don't have jurisdiction, or when you mentioned about the case that you're being charged in.
Yes, it's a multiple. It's I basically brought forth the common law rights, and they ignored all of them. And that's Glenn's point, that his point is we have to hold our common law juries, but there's a process to winning and having it stick, which is the point of going over this case, because we aren't even there yet of understanding how to overcome the abject tyranny of the court system, because in my case, I was accused of a statute crime where a police department forged a judge's signature on a warrant, and I was put into jail for based upon that. And in the state, under the current New Jersey Constitution, it allows a judge to order a mental competency evaluation without a trial. And because I refused to give jurisdiction to the superior court, or in some jurisdictions it would be a district court on the state level, that judge ordered me into a mental institution because I refused to grant her jurisdiction. But I didn't know what I know now. The only thing I knew is not to give her jurisdiction.
So New Jersey said the common law is outlawed in this state, or in the state of New Jersey.
In 1978, the heading was common law of the statute. Common law crimes
Are abolished.
in the state of New Jersey are hereby abolished.
It's amazing how many states that is the case. Arizona is the same thing.
So I found in a 1969 New Jersey, what's it called, M-39, the definition of in this state or in the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
And it says it means within the exterior limits of New Jersey, the state of New Jersey, and includes all territory within the limits owned by or ceded to the United States of America.
Yeah, that's a typical definition you see a lot of times.
So if he's outside that area, you would still have common law.
Right, but yes, and so there's a whole complex explanation about how they take jurisdiction fraudulently, which goes to the whole minor estate issue.
Okay.
And so the good news is that after my trials and tribulations, Glenn filed on my behalf 44 criminal complaints against various city, state, and county officials, 44 criminal acts of different people, meaning that different people were involved, 44 of them. Because I kept refusing to give jurisdiction, so they just kept taking me deeper into the dungeon. And I learned through that about the purpose of the all caps name, the purpose of maritime and admiralty jurisdiction and the definition of it, and how it is that they're doing to us what they do, what the rules of their game is. And so
let me tell you guys, they're gonna give a lot of people who stand up and don't give jurisdiction the same exact treatment. There's been a memo put out that if someone is either associated with a sovereign citizen and they can get them to admit that on the record, or they just won't, sign a statute over themselves to put them in a mental hospital. That's going to happen a lot, and they've been doing it all over the place. It's only going to get worse until we bring it out.
Actually, what I do is I accuse them of war crimes, taking reprisals against you for your political beliefs. And there's a Supreme Court case from 1873 that says that everyone and everything not privileged is sovereign. And so, it's hard for them to argue with that. And so usually it's the lawyers that are doing that stuff. And so, I go after the lawyers and file bar grievances against them and break it off in their ass in a variety of different ways. They only accuse me one time in any court case, and I never hear about it again. So, anyway, so let's keep moving here. Let's see here. Yeah. So I should file this into my case, I think, just basically retype this whole thing because most of it's really good. Anyways, Article 1 of the Constitution did then and there set up legislative courts inferior to common law courts and is verified by Article 7 of the Articles of Amendments in the Constitution, where it guarantees in suits of common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of a trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall otherwise be reexamined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. This sets the courts of common law separate and apart from legislative courts, such as the 14th District Judicial District Court, otherwise being a maritime court, in that any case tried in the 14th District can be reexamined by action of appeal. This places the 14th District as one of the inferior courts referred to in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution of the United States. Note the difference in the trial by jury and common law as to a trial with a jury in legislative inferior courts.
Could you please, Glenn, help them and show them the definition of the word jury as an adjective? Pull up the definition. So the different, what I learned, and it took me a while.
Yeah, jury by an adjective is emergency.
Right, but let them see it so they can see it for themselves. So when I was claiming I would demand trial by jury, and months would go by, and I was not provided it, and had no remedy, didn't know how to get out of their clutches without giving them jurisdiction, we were at a stalemate. And I had a dictionary in the jail cell, so I said, let me just look up the word jury, because I learned that, I wasn't the greatest in grammar in school. I understood when things seemed right in English, but I'd never had the rules down.
Jury as an active for temporary use applied to a temporary contrivance. A jury, a rudder constructed for temporary use. Jury's an active, jury rigging, right? When you jury rig your car, it's just temporary. It's emergency.
Right. So the word jury in front of, when they offer us a jury trial, they're offering us an emergency trial that's rigged.
No shit.
They're telling us.
Yeah, no shit.
And as opposed to trial by jury.
That's right.
And so that was the point I just wanted to bring out of where you can show people to help wake them up, where they can look in their own dictionaries. And so when they start hearing the word jury trial, it's not trial by jury. And most of us would think, of course, it's the same thing. It's got the same words. They're just flipped.
That's right. Jury, this is Oxford English Dictionary. Jury as an active adjective.
I just wanted to add that I had a corporate job 10 years ago for about 5-6 years, and I was second in command of an entire division. And it turns out that my boss above me, on the last day that I worked for him, told me that he was an undercover operative.
Really?
And so I'm like, really? This whole time? Yeah, I've had help this whole time making decisions above your head. I'm like, that's how you got everything done so quickly. You had help. But anyway, it was interesting that he would get called on jury duty 4 or 5 times a year. And I was the only one that really knew about it because I had to run the entire company without him. I had to do all my work and his work. So he would tell me, so what it kind of led up to is that every year he was gone for all these jury duties. It's the deep state's job to fill in as a juror to swing even a trial by jury or a jury trial, because they can always just pull this guy up and say, hey, he's already on payroll. We don't got to pay him anything. Just go ahead and vote this way, swing this way. So there's multiple ways. Even if you have a trial by jury or jury by trial, they can still rig the election through their own bar systems on their own.
Right, no doubt. Okay, so let's keep moving on this and try and get it done. This is not very long.
You were with jury, he said.
Note the difference in a trial by jury in common law as to a trial with a jury in legislative inferior courts. The judge is an inferior court and instructs the jury on what they will hear and decide upon and what they will not. There is no such provision in common law with trial with a jury. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which has never been altered by common consent or in any way or manner, presently remains in force. The last words of the introduction are a preamble to the articles of the ordinance, stated as hereby ordained and declared by authority aforesaid that the following Articles shall be considered as articles of compact between the original states and said territory, and shall forever remain unalterable unless by common consent. The fact of agreement is a federal injunction and is forever unalterable either by legislative Congress or its legislative Supreme Court or its other inferior courts or the administration. It is protected by Article 4, Section 2, Part 1 of the Constitution for the United States of America, which guarantees the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges of citizens in the several states. Article 2 of the Compact Agreement states the inhabitants of the said territory shall always be entitled to the writ of habeas corpus and the trial by jury and of judicial proceedings according to the course of the common law. The legislative law, statutory law, is in fact an extension of maritime law. The 1946 Administrative Procedures Act, Title 5, United States Code, Section 559 at Sentence 2, requires the administrative law to be in compliance with and in conformity to the Constitution for the United States of America and the common law with all its prohibitions, restrictions, restraints, and limitations imposed upon by its enumerated Amendment 9, Bounds and Boundaries. The Maritime Code, otherwise known also as statutory law, being administered in legislative inferior courts, 14th District Court, as evidenced by a maritime gold braid flag in the courtroom, also acknowledges that when inland beyond the high water mark or on the first bridge of any navigable river, they must be brought in compliance with and in conformity to the Constitution for the United States of America and subject to the common law, saving in suitors in all cases the right to a common law remedy where the common law is competent to give it, shall also have exclusive original jurisdiction, cognizance of all seizures on land and other water, then as aforesaid made, and with all suits for penalties and forfeitures incurred under the laws of the United States, Government Incorporated, 1 Stat 77, Section 9A. Third, of all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, saving to suitors in all cases the rights of common law remedy, where the common law is competent to give it. And that's 36 Statute 1161, Section 256, Part 3, thus meaning competent. Common law is not extending in reverse of the high water mark and extending to sea or the jurisdiction of maritime law, or to exercise jurisdiction as stated in the Constitution under Article 1, Section 8, where it declares that the inferior tribunals will exercise exclusive legislation as prescribed by Congress over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, or 10 square miles, actually it's 10 miles square, as made by session of particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, and dockyards, and other needful buildings, and make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested in this Constitution and the government of the United States or any department or officer thereof. Legislative statutory authority, courts themselves admitted the validity of the common law in Strauss versus Strauss, 1941, which states every system of law known to civilized society generated from or had as its components one of three well-known systems of ethics, pagan, Stoic, or Christian. The common law draws its substance from the latter. Its roots go deep into that system. The Christian concept of right and wrong, justice, motivates every rule of equity. It is the guide by which we dissolve domestic frictions and the rule which all legal controversies are settled. Whereas we learned that the law of the land means the common law, that's State versus Simmons, 1884, Justice O'Neill speaking for the court, Taylor versus Porter, 1843, Webster's definition of the law of the land, at 4 Wheaton, 518, in Wiley versus Collins, 1851, acknowledges the common law and the Holy Bible from which it came, which is the foundation of the common law, is our God-given constitutionally secured right. The 97th Congress declared the Holy Bible to be the Word of God by joint resolution, Public Law 97-280, 96 Stat 1211. The common law case tried before a jury regarding uniform commercial code filings have been finally and foremost adjudicated under common law, wherein there is no appeal to this 14th District Court, since it is very clear that this case has been tried by a jury from which there is no appeal. Thus, res judicata applies, and this court has no jurisdiction to hear this case. The Uniform Commercial Code is specific for all who operate under or within it. To state that they do not know it or act out of ignorance is not a defense, nor does it give rise to action because of the ignorance of the same. The legislative or statutory courts have never recognized that as a defense for not answering a presentment or a petition. If you don't like that you owe something, you make your denial known. And then respectfully submitted, Jerry L. Wilkins. I mean, that's like the icing on the cake.
Beautiful.
It nails it. Anyways, so this is we've been going over this, and I hope there's a video of this. But we've been going over this again and again. We went over it at the Northeast Private Information Share, and here we are going over it again, and we'll probably go over again some more, because there's just lots of just really, really interesting stuff about this, and powerful. I mean, it's like once you understand this stuff, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. And when you start bringing it up in this way, you know, they're screwed. And that's why all of their statutes are bills of attainder. You know, it's a non-judicial proceeding, administrative law, and their administrative law is supposed to follow common law. So they have to recognize that common law exists. And yet they pass statutes to say that you know, no common law crimes in the state.
Well, they're actually saying the truth. Why?
Because it's a corporation.
Exactly. And so if I stand on the land, then
you're not in this state.
I can have common law.
You're not in this state.
And I'm not in this state. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty much, like
Nails
you said,
it.
icing on the cake. I mean, there's so much in there that over time, you know, I think we'll investigate all of these sites that he brings up.
Right.
We haven't done that yet.
Right. Well, some of them I use all the time. That Taylor versus Porter, I use that all the time. I use that when I'm talking about common law. Okay. Yeah, the State versus Simmons and Taylor versus Porter, I use those.
Yeah, you've said they're precedent-setting cases in your videos, Glenn.
So we're in the process. I'm asking Glenn to help me hold an actual Jerry Wilkins version in New Jersey.
Maybe next spring, eh?
Yes, and I'm in the process of discovering who is responsible for giving me a public facility of we the people to conduct such a trial by jury.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can't get the city hall.
Oh, and one thing I might mention, which you folks might not know, is that we were successful in causing a city council, after a year or more of me refusing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because the maritime flag was flying.
They had a gold French flag in there, yeah.
In their city council meeting. And whenever I would comment on it, often somebody else would get up and yell at me because my parents didn't raise me right. I had no respect for the veterans that gave their lives for that flag.
Well, they didn't. They gave their lives to the flag that was flying outside on the flagpole.
But exactly. But so all these city council members, week after week, would turn and salute the flag and with their heart, hand over their heart. And about a month ago, I was not there at one meeting, and my brother was, and I looked in the corner on the video because I like to watch what he says as well. And it looked to me like there was no gold fringe flag, that the flag had a wrinkle in it. It needed to be ironed. Like it had just come out of a box. And so Glenn and I took a little field trip, and we went down there, and I was of the assumption possibly I could use the city council chambers for a trial by jury. And I thought that, but when we got there, the door was closed. So I gently pushed it open like a swinging saloon door, and it opened up. It was open from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And that's where we, the people, can assemble, I believe. So I don't know if there's any other city councils in America or wherever that have a common law flag flying, but that's the correct flag now. And they didn't make a big deal out of it. But the man who was actually in tears in the past because I refused to stand, when he saw me stand, he was shocked. But I said, if you replace the flag, I'll be the first one to stand up.
Well, and he even offered to put the flag next to the gold fringe flag, put a regular flag there. And
but they just replaced it.
They just replaced it. Yeah.
So we are making progress, and I use my 5 minutes of free speech to educate city council and the public. Instead of complaining that nobody seems to respond, I give them the benefit of the doubt, and some are actually coming around because I provide them evidence of what it is that we're claiming is true. And so some of them have actually begun to wake up as city council members.
So next Friday, we're going to be talking about unlawful arrest. What constitutes a lawful arrest? How you can, and a warrant, what a lawful warrant has to have. And so that anybody that gets arrested, they'll know. And they'll be able to articulate what is an unlawful arrest and how to tell. I mean, I think a lot of people don't know the circumstances where they can arrest you without a warrant, and then what a warrant is, what's required on a warrant to make it lawful. And so we're going to be talking about that next week. And I think that's about it for this week. Unless anybody's got anything else.
Well, I just want to thank you for coming to the mic tonight, especially after you just got back after, being away from your home and that. So thank you so much. Thank you, Nelson, for bringing that case forward for us. Is that, you'd mentioned earlier when you first started speaking about the lawyer's case that was disbarred, you said it was hard to research it, like it was buried. Can you just elaborate on that shortly?
Sure. Glenn, for what seems to me a long time, I've known him since 17 or 18. And he would always tell me, there was a point where he started talking about a WFAA case. And I considered it to be patriot myth because he never came forward with the actual case. And he would tell me what the effect was. And then about less than a year ago, I think.
Yeah, I've always had it. I mean, it's amazing how, my patriarchal blessing said that I would be given the talents that I need when the need arises. And it's amazing how things just land in my lap when it's the right time,
Right. So he used to talk about the WFAA case. And then when he provided it, I was shocked that it actually existed, that a real common law, if you go through the case, you'll see that they hand wrote a lot of the items.
Yeah, I uploaded it to the group. It's on the group.
Thank you so much for that.
On the chat right here.
So
see, it's right here. After it finishes loading, see, there it is right there. So anybody can get it.
So I wanted to me, it was a blueprint. If what he said was true, that case would be a blueprint for my future, especially in communist New Jersey, communist fascist New Jersey.
Yeah, some states are worse than others, but New Jersey's definitely bad.
But in a way, that's good because the people are screaming for relief and they don't have the answers. And so we, the people, most people flee because they can't take the heat.
Well, yeah, it's really criminal what these courts are doing, you know, selling people into slavery.
No question about it. So the question now is how my question to myself and to Glenn and we the people is, can we use common law courts to actually affect change with bringing, you know how we're told, you know, you can't really bring a judge or a cop or somebody into their system to get remedy. And that's probably true. So then how do I do it? How do we do it using the common law method that Jerry Wilkins used? While it wasn't a state corporation or a municipal corporation, I'm not sure that we cannot succeed. I think we might be able to.
I think we can. But we're going to have to learn how to bring it into their courts in such a way that they'll have to recognize it, basically, is the way
right.
It's going to
So
have to
Jerry
work.
Wilkins was a blueprint. What he did, it took him about a little under a year of not getting the other people to answer.
Yeah, right.
And then once that happened, that's what slammed the door shut because they had their chance to appear. They kept refusing the people he was suing in common law.
And then what happened is they couldn't get insurance, they couldn't get bonds, nothing from Wall Street because they sent it to Wall Street. So I think right now we need to figure out how we can get the thing into Wall Street so that it's going to cause them damage. You know, that's going to be our next job too.
And then the other question is can I, for the men and women that harmed me as public servants, are we precluded from holding them accountable in a common law trial?
No, absolutely not. Matter of fact, you know, I mean, we were talking about stuff that Ocean City owns. They own a lot of stuff. So there's definitely something to get.
Right. Well, that's the corporation. I'm referring to the people who maliciously and purposely harmed us.
Well, you know, I mean, you said yourself that you want to educate them. And so you're not doing things that you could do because you have sympathy for them, I guess.
Well, what I'm trying to do, folks, is get the city council to actually hand over damages without going to a court, their court system. And I believe that the Constitution, which now that we have the real flag flying behind them, they may have the authority by virtue of they're the elected representatives of that corporation. They can make a decision that I don't have to go, put myself in a 10-year legal battle and millions of dollars. I just want them to do the right thing. So I'm appealing to their better angels, as some have said.
Well, I hope it works out for you. You know, I'm a little bit skeptical, but I hope it works out for you.
The city was founded upon religious principles. We're a dry town.
That's true. You know, Ocean City, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of good people there, you know.
There are.
And so,
So that's my objective, but I needed a blueprint, and this is the only blueprint I've ever seen that I've seen under common law that worked anytime this side of 1900.
Yeah.
And this was at the end of the century.
Well, and if you read those memorandums about the 10th Circuit and stuff like that, by Jesse Enlow, I mean, he talks about other cases that they've done the same thing with. I mean, there's they kind of try and hide that stuff, but this is one that I don't know where I got this from. Quite frankly, I have no idea. Somebody sent it to me, and if you go and look in the 14th District Court, you probably can't find it.
Well, it was back on when the Republic of Texas was huge, growing in the 1990s.
Right. Yeah.
So this was a Republic of Texas situation.
Right, but the de facto courts upheld it.
Right. Now that would have been any common law. It didn't have to be related to the Republic of Texas.
Well, again, they used the U.S. Constitution, our one Supreme Court, and so they can't, I mean, every state's supposed to be a republic. There's supposed to be a republic in New Jersey, too.
Right.
So it's just, we the people, we're entitled to a Republican form of government.
So I know that there's a man from Canada that is involved in the common law process, but I'm not sure that it can be brought down to the basic level that most of us need when we are afflicted by the public servants. And so,
see, what happens is, we're asleep at the wheel. My brother is always railing on all the brain dead idiots out there, and there's a lot of them. And I have to tell them, we're all given the opportunity to learn in our own time and in our own way, and we have to give them the same opportunity. And it's invariable. What happens is people are asleep at the wheel until they get slapped, until something wakes them up. They wind up in jail, and they're sitting there saying, how the hell could this happen?
Right. And so we're slowly, becoming aware. I can tell you that I was actually arrested again last week. I didn't even know if I'd be able to come down to Texas with Glenn. But it's a trespassing case, and a warrant.
It's all trumped up and fictitious.
A warrant had been issued.
Fake warrant.
And when I was at City Council, I mentioned that there were 2 warrants, and that forced the police to go ahead and arrest me, because once I acknowledged the fact that there was this fake warrant out there, it kind of forced their hand. And I was put in jail overnight, and I waited them out, and I refused to post bail and agree to come to their court, a municipal court. And so we're back to square one. And Glenn and he just put this, helped me put together an even stronger notice. What did you call it? Not just a notice. A demand.
Unlawful arrest. It's a notice and demand of cease and desist.
Right. Demand. Yeah. Notice and demand to cease and desist. As far as my status as a man, as opposed to their fiction, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm educating the public. So they actually brought the warrant during the city council meeting as I'm sitting there waiting for everyone else to finish speaking. And I told the police officer, do you have a warrant? He said, no, it's over at the city police department. I says, well, when you bring it over, I'll look at it and then we'll go from there. And he had to turn around off camera and walked away. And then the city council meeting ended. They showed me the warrant. It wasn't valid, but it didn't matter because they got the lowest man on the totem pole, who was the most vulnerable, to be the one to put me in handcuffs and write up the report. So what happened was that I waited a little under 24 hours. I went before a judge, a municipal judge. And in New Jersey, you're either held for trial or you're released on recognizance, no bail. And so because the bail had been satisfied by my appearance bond for them forcing me to go to jail and go see a judge to get out, they got what they wanted. But now we have to bring the Constitution and all of its power against them, because the engagements can be used against, prior to this Constitution, can be used against the United States. And that's of course, the gold fringe flag operating out of DC. So I just sent, and feel free, Glenn, if you want, send that last one that we did, the one that we filed. Remember,
the cease and desist one?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to upload that to the group?
You're welcome to. Because this is, frankly, some of our best work.
Well, it's actually yours. I wouldn't have done that, quite frankly. But I got to say that I've heard of people that got arrested and they got taken to the county jail, and the county sheriff would see them and say, I don't want you in my jail. You get the hell out of here.
When the city would place me down in the county jurisdiction, I would ask the county sheriff's officers, send me back to the municipality. And they'd say, sorry, we got to book you. But it is getting to the point where that may happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want to happen, is get the hell out of here. You're not welcome here.
And so it's been a slow process because everyone is scared.
Well, it's going to have to come from the county sheriff, so we got to get him slapped.
Right. So we actually also filed this notice with the FBI. So they let me out with no bail. I signed it without prejudice under Glenn's direction, which I agree with him. And now there's another trial in 2 weeks, which I'm not going to show up at. And there's going to be another warrant issued. And based on which next week you'll be going over the unlawful warrant information, which he included in this.
Yeah.
He wrote that up for me real quick because I knew what the factors were. I just didn't have it written. So we went ahead and included it because I had sent them a not as good of a version a few weeks ago and they ignored it. Oh, they didn't ignore it. They weren't arresting me. The cops would see me all over town.
Yeah, they left you alone.
They left me alone.
Until he rubbed it in their nose at the city council meeting.
That's exactly
what happened. Do you
have
any of it on video?
Yes. Now, if you want, you can pull up the video and then send a link. Go to ocnj.us or put in city council meetings, Ocean City, New Jersey. And so, folks, what got me in trouble with my Methodist church was I was disputing what the pastors were doing, and they had me arrested falsely. So I picked out a Halloween costume and started wearing it to church. And that drove them off the edge. And that's all I ever did, and that's ended up putting me in handcuffs in jail. So you want to go to the meetings.
What was the Hollywood costume that you wore to church?
Halloween. Halloween. It was a black and white striped prison costume. And that's what I wear to speak in front of city council. And that's been going on about 3 years.
May 12th? When was it?
Well, there's a list of meetings.
Well, that's just beautiful. There's some other very brilliant folks in here that are starting off their documentation by thanking them for their wonderful service.
November, it was this one. I was arrested on the 7th. And I didn't even know if I'd be able to get out in time to go to Texas. Because if I was wrong about my...
So which?
It's video. Meeting video. Probably that one right there. Okay, see the flag in the left-hand side?
Yeah, there's no gold fringe on it.
That's the flag that we have had replaced Okay, and you can kind of scroll forward and find the first time you see the guy stand up in the.
We're not seeing that video. We're still
You
seeing
will in a sec.
I just sent a link to the chat.
Okay, but basically what you can do is fast forward. What they do is they give us actually up to 10 minutes of speaking time, 5 in the beginning of the meeting and 5 at the end on a different subject. So I use the Constitution on one of my options. So if you just kind of scroll forward till you see a guy stand up, that's my brother. He was assaulted by the police too, because they don't like, there I am right there. And I always,
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing or hearing anything. Do you guys want somebody to play that video? I'm willing to do that right now.
Well, it's in the chat. If you want to play it, Rick, you can and share it.
Yeah, it's right there. See,
they
can't click on it.
Oh, they have to click on it, but they can't see what you're saying.
The flag.
Oh well, let's see.
I thought you were just going to play it.
Okay, we can do that.
I think that's what the man was asking.
Okay, we're going to share the video. I uploaded the link, but so we're going to go ahead and play it.
So we've got your guys' mics, but we don't have the video sound.
He doesn't have the video, he said.
Yeah, we can't hear the video. If you want me to play it, I can play it on my side as well with the audio.
What's that?
I'm saying we don't have the audio from the video. We can only hear your
really?
mic.
You can't, or you're not getting the audio. Okay, well, then I'm not sure why it's doing that. I mean, you're hearing me, and we can hear it. I don't understand why. At any rate, you got the link, and you can see him there talking. And if you're not getting the audio, then I don't know what to do to fix that. But so I would suggest.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
I can see it now. There's a little box called Share Audio. It's sometimes you got to scroll down to see it. Anyway, I'm not sure that'll help. Called the Share Audio System or something box.
I don't see it.
It's under when you share screen.
Right, so you got to stop sharing screen, and then when you share screen again, it'll
probably do it over.
Button.
Yep.
Oh, I see it. Okay, let's try it this time.
Military court, this military
better.
city, this military mayor, this military police chief, this military United States government. You know why we're having all the troubles we are in America? Because the United States is foreign to the United States of America. This book, The Complete Federalist and Anti-Federalist Papers. Get it and start reading it. I'm going to be offering my services to the men, young men and women of this high school to start a club called the Constitution Club. I wish somebody knew what we know now, 40 years later. You know who's one of my heroes? Senator Joe McCarthy. You know what I was told in high school? He's a nutcase. You know what he said? Communism is a real threat. That communism is amongst us right now. Good news. Founding fathers knew how to eliminate all of the issues from evil that would try to detain us from our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We were made princes on this land. You know who cheated us out of that inheritance and hid it away? The attorneys. I have no respect, virtually, for any attorney. Why? Because they don't serve us. They serve the bar. The American Bar Association, the New Jersey Bar Association, and the International Bar Association out of London. Anti-federalist. I'm okay with the Constitution. They had to do something. They put so much genius in this. Every single day I learn more and more. Federalist number one out of, 50 or 60 of them. This is why we shouldn't sign the Constitution. And before I forget, these gentlemen right here could be personally liable if something happens when you allow this lagoon to continue that he talked about, because he's telling you these people are not doing what the law says and you should be doing something to stop it, not say, well, whatever the lawyers say, just do it. The executive branch, we don't have anything to say. We appointed them. No. You have every right to say, sorry, stop. So here's what Federalist 1 says. They consist generally of holders of public securities. These are people who are trying to get the Constitution passed because of the power it will give them. Say United States government. Say immigration without end because they want it. The globalists. Bribing the senators, etc., which we don't even, the legislature used to appoint them. That was protecting us, the people of every state. 13 seconds. Holders of public securities, men of great wealth and expectations of public office, bankers and lawyers. These with the trained dependence from the aristocratic combination, the lawyers in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into reports from City Council. Dave? No report. Keith?
Just a quick question. I know the last time somebody came in from 10th Street, I asked these same questions, but since this gentleman is here, they can do the work in the water. There's nothing we can do about that, correct?
Government is not reason. It is not eloquence. It is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Never for a moment should it be left to irresponsible action. I have the distinction of bringing this police force into compliance. What were they not in compliance with? The Constitution for 20 years. This was a criminal enterprise going on with all of our... we didn't know. Now we know. If anyone wishes to ask Melissa Rasner, the city clerk, send her an Oprah request and say, whatever Nelson sent you that proved to Mr. Crowley and Mr. Madden and the rest of the council that there are two governments operating in America right now. One under the Constitution and one not. They're tricksters. We've been tricked. Are we going to keep being tricked? I'm not. There were 2 warrants in the last 30 days getting one issue. They threatened the issue. 2. And you know what? I stand here and Officer Alcott in the back is protecting and serving the Constitution. And until he has a lawful order to arrest me and put me back in chains, he won't do it. Thank God for William Campbell. Payment of claims. Now, William Campbell was a captain. I went into City Hall. This is in 2020, after COVID, February of 2020. I delivered the first of 8 certificate of baptism. That's why I stand here before you today. They can't treat me like I'm dead and like they're robbing my estate. I'm learning, and they're in big trouble.
Later in the
Payment of claim. Stay. You know what? I stayed. They had no authority to remove me without a further federal crime. So, Monica, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Anyone else on this side, please? All right, seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Nelson, you made the gatekeepers very
getting
nervous.
Down. I'm not allowed to code.
Yeah, further back.
Please, counsel, if you could talk to one is, you know, I look at those, I watch.
Rob,
Okay, very short.
$10,000 a minute,
Just let it roll, and then it'll happen.
and $20,000 went to the attorneys on top of that. Are we going to let that happen? I'm going to try to find a way to not have that happen. Pay the lawyers. Thank you.
George?
So here's where my brother gets up to speak. Oh no, go forward to my brother. And then while my brother's speaking is when they came up and asked me.
Comment dash form. And
You know, I look at those, I watch those shows with interesting eyes anymore. Lucas McCain, the guy that kind of is the person that's an honest guy and helps out with the city. He talks about the town council, the city council. And it's interesting when he brings it up, like when the school's having an issue, well, we have to bring it up with the town council. Stop the clock. Stop the clock, please.
So the police officer was telling me he had a warrant. I said, well, show it to me. He said, it's on the way. I said, well, when you get it, come back up and we'll talk about it. He wanted me to willingly leave the...
All right, we can do that. Yeah.
You can get in without them. I'm going to give you.
No,
it's not your time.
Yeah, this is
Jonathan.
a meeting here. Thank you. I appreciate you stopping the clock.
Let's go, Jonathan.
If you want to leave everything, I'll take it. All right. So anyway, the council has some serious starts in our republic, in our country. Without you, we have no city solicitor. The office of the city solicitor starts with you. So please understand who you are. Please. I didn't know. I had no idea. It's a good idea to have a constitutional class over here in Ocean City High School so that when you come out of high school, you know who's who.
Sorry about that.
But anyway, why I came up here is I told you about how
That's enough, Glenn.
the Ocean City Little League, or
Okay, folks, that was kind of last Thursday night. I was put in handcuffs right after the meeting ended, after being shown an unlawful warrant. I asked them to contact the chief of police because it was unlawful and to make sure that he was behind what they were doing. I said, is there a lieutenant or a captain available? They said, no, only a sergeant is on duty. It's a sleepy town in the wintertime. And so it's a sergeant. It was the highest ranking officer on duty. And so they're not going to call the chief of police at home. So they obeyed the municipal judge's fake warrant. And that was Thursday night. I was out on Friday afternoon. And if Glenn, did you send them the?
Yes, I did. I uploaded the
notice and demand.
It's the
cease and desist.
Russell County Sheriff That's the cease and desist, plus with the attachments.
Correct.
But with the warrant and all the rest of that crap.
Right. So what I did was I put them on notice peaceably to leave me alone, because I'm not going to be showing up at the next municipal court, because my understanding is only cargo is dealt with in a maritime municipal court.
Yeah, it's all color of law.
There's nothing breathing or speaking. And there is a difference between admiralty jurisdiction,
the bill of attainder,
and maritime jurisdiction. So I'm flying back most likely this next week to go to the next Thursday meeting of City Council, when there's no warrant yet for me not showing up. And I will be sending them what you now have in your possession, which starts with the FBI being noticed. There's 14 different people or agencies noticed about the next crime they're about to commit against me. So I'm just building a case, like Glenn said, and the reason for the common law trial by jury information is so necessary is if we are going to succeed, we the people have to figure out how to do it. We can't rely on their courts.
No, absolutely not. So anyways, next week we're going to...
Hey, Glenn, can you pass him my phone number? When you get back to Jersey, give me a call.
Okay. Have I got your phone number?
Yeah, if you go into my send message, just click on my name and you'll see my phone number.
Okay, and Telegram?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. I hope I didn't bore anybody.
No, Nelson, you brought very good information forward for us tonight. I really appreciate you bringing up this information for us, helping to break through the facade of these city monsters, I call them. They're nothing more than gatekeepers. I saw how all their hair on the back of their necks went up as soon as you started talking about SQV, right? So if they ever bug you to do a psych evaluation again, you hit them up with practicing law medicine without a license.
Oh, practicing law too without a license.
Right.
Yeah, well, in New Jersey, it's an automatic $10,000 fine for practicing medicine without a license. And also, did you look up the New Jersey statute for trespassing? Because they have no jurisdiction on issuing you anything for trespassing.
Well, that I agree with, but as Glenn says, something comes at the barrel of a gun.
All political power comes at the barrel of a gun, yeah.
Right. So that's where Article 3, Clause 1 is our political power. The judicial power of the United States,
we the people,
shall be vested in what? One Supreme Court.
Yep.
So when our Supreme Court renders a decision, in my view, the entire force of the Army of the United States,
that's right,
gets behind one man.
Yeah.
When that jury of his peers,
I would say that's probably true.
And so that's where I'm trying to get to, and kind of wake them up at the same time, because we have to give them the respect. They're not all going to wake up at the same time. And some will actually be against
See, he's
us.
being too nice to him, way more nice than I would be, quite frankly.
Well, I have an objective, which is to...
He has to live with them. These are his neighbors.
Well, I'm hoping to actually... Well, the constitutional flag is a huge win. I don't know if it was the chief of police. The only reason...
Somebody changed that flag. If you look in the corner of that room, that flag doesn't have any gold fringe on it.
If you go back a month, the previous meetings, I speak at almost every meeting, and you can just see what I said. You'll find me in my prison uniform. Pretty easy to locate. And so the constitutional flag has now been reestablished in its rightful place. And that was the chief of police. That chief of police
is
the new guy. He arrested me on a warrant for an outstanding fine, and they didn't have any oath of office. Over 90% of the police officers had no oath of office for at least 20 years. And so when he took me into the jail cell, I indicated that I had been to city council for the 3 months previous, telling them that none of the cops had the right oath to the Constitution. And I told him that he needed to get out of my jail cell. And this was in the municipal jail. And I asked him to call the city solicitor to come down because they wanted me to leave. I said, no, you brought me here. I think I'll stay. And I stayed in the jail, refused to leave, and they couldn't kick me out because they had no oath. And they called the city solicitor down, and she said, what do we have to do to get you to leave, Nelson? I said, well, there was a case in Tampa, Florida, $1,000 a minute. I've been here 120 minutes. You can give me a check for $60,000 and I'll leave. She said, we can't do that. The case hasn't been adjudicated. I stated, I think I'll stay. And I did for 22 hours. And they came back a half hour later and said, you can stay, but we're not giving you any food or any water. It's not the county jail. I said, that's fine. No food, no water. And they opened up the jail cell door and left it open the entire time. And every hour, a different cop would tell me, Mr. Dice, you're free to leave. And I would say, no, I like my accommodations. And I understood at that time, this was 4 years ago, I came to the understanding that I was standing on the land of New Jersey, of this confederacy of the United States of America, and all of the bricks and bars around me was the United States.
Federal government.
Correct. Unlawful. Outside 10 Mile Square. And so that was the beginning of the education. And then after 1 year later was when I was arrested falsely for stalking at a public church service just for wearing the prison costume. That police chief, thanks to Glenn, retired early after the Chief Justice of the state of New Jersey got a criminal charge placed against him, reported by Glenn and me. That chief of police lost his job. The guy that had put me in jail a year before, falsely with no oath, he became chief, and he's a good guy. So we got rid of the bad guy. And he's not a bad man, the man who's currently chief. So he was elevated to chief once Glenn got the other chief of police fired. And one other thing, which I'll share with you, does anybody know the difference between the Department of Health and Human Services? What's the difference between the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services?
Nothing in communist Canada.
I think you're incorrect, and I'm going to tell you why. I would have said the same thing. And because of Glenn, the Department of Health commissioner was fired from her job because of what they did to me by putting me in the mental institution without cause.
That's a war crime. I filed war crimes complaints against them.
Yeah, we're getting to them. But here's the difference. The Department of Health relates to men and women with their names spelled properly, upper and lower case. The Department of Human Services is how I was transported. If you look up the word transport, it has to do with a penal colony.
Yes, that's true.
So I was transported in the all caps name all through the system up until my final mental adjudication. And that was the only time when they found me competent to stand trial, they typed my name correctly.
But Lori's in Canada, and Canada has it's different. But it's
not if there's common law.
Well, it's supposed to be the same common law in Canada as there is here. That's true.
Right. So if there
is, they're spelling the names in all block capital letters that are for sure.
Right. But but the point being is, the Department of Health has to do with men and women. Department of Human Services has to do with things.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Human services, humans are a thing.
Correct.
They're what do they say? It's a beast.
Monster.
Yeah, monster.
So in New Jersey, there's actually a commissioner of the Department of Health, and there's also a director of Human Services. And the only one that got fired was the health, because I was a man, claiming we claimed that I was a man, as opposed to, and so that's why she got fired, was because she had injured one of the people. So overseeing it. So, all right. Well, I'll give you a shout out when I get back, and you're welcome to give me a call anytime with questions and comments. But we're definitely making progress. And what you could do, if anybody's in or around who knows anybody in New Jersey, please, for the spring, I intend to summons, or actually summons not a good word because that's fake, serve some of the people who committed crimes against me. And we're going to hold a common law trial by jury.
We need
people.
Probably about 14 or 15 people.
Right. So I need to start gathering, and they can't be they have to be open-minded and fair. I don't want them just because, they've heard my side of the story. We're going to give the judge, the judges, the police officers, etc., the opportunity to show up.
I'd be surprised if anybody shows up.
Well, that'll make our job easy.
Hey, guys, that's where people that are not in Texas don't have the opportunity to assemble. Now, there's a lot of states that are coming together and they're getting their assembly together. But without an assembly in the foremost to put an adjudication together to hand an Admiralty Maritime Court something that doesn't need to be decided, that would work for a lot of the people, but they're not Texas. Thank God for Texas. I'm a part of Texas. I'm just saying that other people don't have that right. So if you need to reach out to people who are knowledgeable in your state's assembly, so that you've got, 15, 16 people who can write an affidavit or stand on your side.
Right.
Something else is next time that you go in, sir, on the next Thursday, ask them for the true bill. Tell them you'd like a copy or to see the original true bill. And you can always.
We did get a copy of the true bill, and it's I think we did, and it's not stamped.
I don't know.
Or signed.
It would be awesome if we could read that, because it supposedly lays everything Admiralty Maritime out in the open and explains exactly what they're doing. If they were stupid enough to give it to you, it would be awesome to study for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So for sure, every state is at different places, and of course the problem with distance and time, and the minute I was put on a terrorist watch list just because at one of Glenn's private information shares, one of the new people traveled into town and got pulled over and had an unexpired license tag. They took his car, and I had the audacity to tell the cop, can't you just let him go over 100 feet? We're having a weekend seminar on Constitution and asserting.
They put you down as a sovereign citizen. Eh?
Yep.
That was under that old police chief, too.
Correct.
And he's gone.
And yes, and I'm hoping that we can. So we're figuring out how to, we're trying to find out how we, the people, can actually perhaps impeach the civil officers. That's my next hope.
Well, that judge needs to be impeached.
Right.
At, what's her name?
Smith.
Smith, yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, Glenn is correct. Oh, so I did want to mention when I was down in the jail cell, since I had been in there for a year and a half and I had led Bible studies and they weren't allowing ministers or priests in. So I was holding Bible studies for 4 hours a day with anyone that was interested. So the corrections officer knew that I wasn't, a bad guy. So when I got there this last Thursday, a couple of them for over an hour allowed me to share this type of information with them. And I had an opportunity to share Glenn's website. They're in there copying down different websites on where to go and asking me questions.
Yeah, well, that's good. So they're interested.
He said, and I told him, I said, I'm interested in truth. He said, so am I, meaning the CEO, because he realizes he's been deceived.
Right, of course.
So we need them on our side.
So we need good, honorable people doing that too.
Exactly. So, all right, well, I'm going to say good night, folks. Thank you I hope I was some help.
Okay, I think we're about done here. Thanks for listening.
You've been very generous, Glenn. So we'll talk next week. Thank you.
You bet. And we'll talk about unlawful arrests.
Awesome. Okay. Check your email because I have another request that I won't keep you tonight. So have a good night.
Okay.
Good night, Glenn.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.